Last time on the Book Lovers Library, we have the Michael Bay series by Richard Paul Evans. The Delirium series by Lauren Oliver is the Legend series by Mary Lou. Alright, number 7 on my list is the Divergent series. The first book is called Divergent, and there are 3 total books in this series plus 1 extra book called 4. Some of you longtime readers might be a little confused on why this falls so low on my list. It might be just because I haven't read it in a while, who knows, but it's still a really, really good series. It's by Veronica Roth. I don't know if I already said that. And in this town or city, you have to be put into a faction. There are 5 factions. These factions determine what job you work and what you do for the rest of your life. And they each represent basically an adjective. So, the people who are smart or kind or selfless. It follows a girl named Beatrice Pryor, and it follows her as she decides which faction she will be in and what happens when she already chooses one. There definitely is romance in this book. It's not romance centered, but it does take it a little far at one moment in the book, so I would suggest asking your parents before you read this and just skipping over those parts. That's what I do, because I know I don't always want to read that stuff. But I definitely suggest reading this book. I would also suggest 4, the extra book. It follows a guy named 4, which you'll find out who it is if you read the book. It just gives his viewpoints during some of the time periods, I think only in the first book. But he is in all 3, so read this book. Alright guys, the 6th book on my list is the Red Queen series by Victoria Ahearn. Now, just hold up real quick. Don't judge a book by its cover, please. I know I saw the red blood oozing off this crown at first and I was like, uh-oh, it's gonna be gory, isn't it? But it's actually more supposed to be, a symbolic representation about what happens in the book, because the book is kind of based off of what color your blood is. So there are 2 different colors, which is where I'm going to next. Though let me also say that there are 4 total books in this series plus 2 extra books. And now to the summary. Basically, in this kingdom, it is split by blood. So if you have red blood, you are of a lower class, and you must serve the people who have silver blood. And the people who have silver blood have supernatural powers, so they can be extra strong, or they can shoot fire out of their hands, or they can control your mind. It's really cool to read. But it follows the main character, Mayor Darrow, and she has red blood. But, she has powers. What? It's crazy, I know. So the king tries to cover this up by pretending and convincing the people that she is a long-lost silver-blooded princess. But as the reader, we all know that that is not true. So it follows her as she's discovering why she has powers, if there are any other people like her, and maybe falls in love. There is romance at one point. It does take it a little far, just like I said with the last book, so I would definitely just skip over those parts and check with your parents. As for the extra books in this series, I would suggest only getting 1 of them, and I will explain why. The first extra book that came out, Cruel Crown, has, I believe, 2 or 3 stories from other characters' points of views, but a new extra book just came out called Broken Throne, which is the one I would suggest getting. And it includes the stories that were in Cruel Crown plus more. So that's why I think you should get Broken Throne, because you get more stories with just buying 1 book. I do have both, but that is just because Broken Throne came out more recently, so I'd already bought Cruel Crown. But anyways, please read. When I was picking it up for this video, I was like, oh, I need to reread that series. So please. Alright, now we're on to my top 5. So at number 5, we have the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. This first book is called Cinder, and there are 4 total books in this series plus 2 extra books. Unlike what I said with the last series, I would actually suggest getting both extra books because they are completely different, which I will explain a little later. So to start with this series is kind of like a sci-fi, fairy tale, dystopian combo. So if you love fairy tales or you love sci-fi or both, this is great for you. I just love these series because everything kind of comes together. Like, she creates these stories off of fairy tales but in like a sci-fi way. So then at the very end of all these books, you see it and you're like, oh my gosh, that's, you know, Cinderella or, you know, Red Riding Hood or something. Like it's really cool. I actually found out about this series when I did a book swap with my friend. So shout out to her for making me love this series and letting me borrow your book because I don't actually own this series since we did a book swap. So to kind of summarize maybe what the back of the book would say is that it follows a girl named Cinder, and she is what they call a cyborg, which means, wait, did I say that right? Yes, she's a cyborg. And that means that parts of her body are like mechanical. So maybe one of her arms or her legs is actually made of metal instead of normal human skin. And in this world, planet Earth is kind of at war with the Lunars who live in outer space. So that's where kind of like the sci-fi comes into it. And Cinder, her life becomes intertwined with the handsome Prince Kai's. And that's kind of where her whole story begins. There is romance, if you can't already tell with what I'm saying, with the, you know, intertwining. It does not take it too far. It's actually a very nice amount, which is what I like. As for the extra books, one of them has multiple stories from different characters' points of views and like a bonus epilogue that takes place after the end of the last book. And then the other extra book follows one storyline of another character, actually the villain in this series, and it's really interesting because it almost makes you feel bad for her in a way, but also not really because she's evil. So I would definitely suggest getting both and reading this series. It's amazing. Thank you to my friend. Woo.